Welcome back to Breeze TV. I'm Shelby Walker, and I'm joined with Kailey Cheng from The Breeze, who recently came out with a supplement all about JMU's diversity. So first, can you talk about what made you look into JMU's diversity? And in the supplement, you mentioned your father's concerns when you were first looking at JMU and noticing that it is predominantly white. So would you say that that had a factor at all?
Oh, absolutely. When I first came to JMU, and I kind of talked about this in my little editor introduction, I first toured with my dad, and we were looking around, and he always does this. He's always like, I don't see any other Asian people here. Or he's like, oh, look, another Asian family. I think it's because he grew up in an environment where there weren't a lot of Asian families. He grew up in a predominantly white school system in Long Island, and he was bullied, and he had these terrible experiences. And I think he always feared that it would happen to me too. But I grew up in Northern Virginia, so I came from a very, very diverse area. And going to JMU was very eye-opening for me. At some points, I feel like I was the only Asian person in my class, or even minority. And I wondered if I was the only one thinking that, or if other people were noticing too. It felt a little isolating, so I was really curious to see, like, are other people feeling this way? Is it just me? I think I also felt pressure to join a lot of Asian orgs or just other clubs with diverse students. And I was just thinking, is this the only way I can make friends here? I wonder if other people are experiencing this. So that's really why I took on the subject, because of my personal experiences, my father's fears. And I just wanted to see if anyone else shared that kind of isolating experience that I had when I came to JMU.
And so the supplement is all about diversity by the numbers. So what exactly did you find?
Oh wow, I found a lot. So I kind of separated it into faculty and student numbers. So I looked at undergraduate students coming in as well as instructional faculty. I thought that was the best way to break it down. So starting with faculty, if you were to look at the supplement, there's a lot of numbers and a lot of graphs. And so I really wanted to look at the percentages of non-white faculty at JMU, especially this year, and see how that differs between each college. And I found that the College of Arts and Letters and the College of Business have the highest percentages of non-white faculty. And so I did interviews with their deans, of course, to find out why is that, what programs are they putting on. And they are putting on some successful programs. They care about diversity. It's one of their highest priorities when hiring faculty. And then I also looked at the lower numbers, and the lowest school with the lowest non-white instructional faculty was the College of Health and Behavioral Sciences. So for students, I kind of looked at 2010 to 2020 to kind of see a decade of change. Wanted to see what trends were there, which populations are increasing, are there any decreasing, and I found that diversity is increasing at a very steady rate, but it's very minimal. You can't really notice it that much unless you go here. And I found that the Hispanic population actually grew from 3 to 7%, which is pretty major. And we think this is because the population of Hispanics in Virginia increased, so as a result, it increased at JMU too. But we also think that after I interviewed Art Dean and David Owusu-Ansah, they talked about programs being put in place in Harrisonburg about kind of getting more Hispanic students from schools in Harrisonburg, because Harrisonburg has a lot of Hispanic people and a lot of diversity. I think a lot of people don't realize that Harrisonburg is so diverse when they come here. JMU kind of is in its own bubble. Another big point I wanted to make was Pell Grant money. When I was talking to the dean of the deans, Pell Grant money is a huge reason JMU remains a PWI, which is a predominantly white institution. And that's because rich white students basically can afford JMU the most. JMU doesn't give a lot of aid, and so people of color and just people from other ethnicities and minority groups, they just are disproportionately affected by that. That's a national thing though. So of course that's gonna affect JMU more on like a, I don't wanna say local level, but a smaller level. For those who don't know, the Pell Grant is grant money that comes from the federal government. But that completely depends on the cost of attendance at JMU and students' financial need. So there aren't a lot of students with financial need at JMU. Some people don't know that, and I actually didn't know that either, which is why fewer students receive aid. But the ones who do get aid, they get more than average, which is really good. And this is likely because students attending JMU are wealthier and need less aid. So it all kind of comes down to that.
And as far as faculty, JMU has progressively gotten better on hiring people specifically for or dedicated to diversity and inclusion, yet they get here and have little direction on what exactly that means?
I specifically talked to the Dean of Health and Behavioral Sciences because they were the college that had the lowest number of diverse faculty. And I was curious, why is that? So I talked to the dean and she referred me elsewhere. An anonymous source said that they're kind of in a pre-planned stage. And I was kind of like, what does that mean? What does that entail? And like you mentioned, they as in JMU, they hired a bunch of diverse faculty representatives for each college. But after that, nothing else happened. And that source told me, we're really waiting on the higher ups. They hired us, but what's next? There's no next steps. So it makes me wonder, was something interrupted there? What's delaying that? Especially since that's such an important aspect of diversity at JMU. You want those representatives to be able to make plans and to put plans in action, because we're seeing these numbers so low, especially in the College of Health and Behavioral Sciences. They probably don't want that. They want more diverse faculty. But the anonymous source did say, yes, we're waiting for higher ups to kind of give us direction because they can't move forward without that.
And in regards to admissions, how would you say that JMU is starting to integrate more diverse backgrounds with freshmen?
Oh, for sure. So JMU is actually reaching out to more diverse places in Virginia for recruitment. And that's like Northern Virginia, where I'm from, and that's like Virginia Beach. There's a lot of diverse people there. And I did talk to Art Dean, and he told me that virtual admissions have been helping a lot. So that's one good thing to come out of COVID-19, I think. They're able to reach all these people all across the United States from different backgrounds. And I think this is the most they've ever gotten in a virtual admissions. Well, this is probably the first time they've done virtual admissions. So they're getting a lot more reach, and that's their goal. They want to kind of pull from a more diverse group of students to ensure that they're recruiting diverse students.
So the supplement features a variety of stories from students in the LGBTQ plus community, the Black community, and those with disabilities. What did you find from these students, and what are they saying that JMU should be doing differently?
Yeah, so all of them are saying that they want more in education. They want to learn more about figures, Black figures, LGBTQ figures, even disabled figures in our history, in our gen ed classes. They want to be more known. They want those voices to be heard. I think they also want more events and more clubs and just anything JMU puts on to be more visible. I think that also has to do with students paying attention as well. So hopefully hopefully student media and what I did, I hope that we can keep expanding those stories and writing more about them, because that's how people know things, So I think we play a role as student journalists as well to kind of let people know that these things exist. So I kind of talked to a bunch of different students. I talked to one student who was gay and a person of color, and he came from a very, very diverse school, and he felt so isolated, and he talked about how he just wishes that there were more people like him in his class, or there were more perspectives that kind of came from his point of view. And you can't do that without diversity, So he really wanted to learn more about that kind of background and wished that some of the professors even related more, and that, of course, goes back to faculty recruitment. It all goes back to recruitment, honestly, and hopefully we'll see that change in a few years. I also talked to Dylan, Marty, and Miranda Touchstone. They had very mixed experiences with JMU as LGBTQ members, and Dylan did praise JMU for using his name, his correct name, on the Jack card. But Miranda, on the other hand, had some issues with that, with professors not calling her by her preferred name. So, of course, she kind of wished there was more ways to report professors, or those, the way to report them was more visible, if that makes sense, or just more well-known. So just kind of getting those out there. And I know Thomas Kidd and Joshua Jirac, they were Dukes on wheelchairs, and they're trying to access campus in the easiest way they can. I think they were hoping for more clubs and more events to be more visible to them, because they don't know a lot of people like them. So hopefully student media and JMU itself can talk more about these events and organizations.
As JMU has slowly gotten better on incorporating those diverse backgrounds, are there any final thoughts that you would say JMU needs to do better on, or just students in general to incorporate they're different students that we're all with every day.
Absolutely. I think education is the first step. I think we see a lot of social media posts, people kind of reposting things, especially with the AAPI community recently, all the hate going on. I even wrote a little opinion piece on this. A lot of people are just reposting things because I feel like they kind of have to. I think the first step is going beyond surface level and really talking to people, talking to minorities about their experiences, learning from them, and letting their voices be heard. And that's what this whole capstone is about. It is an education. My purpose was to educate. And I hope when people read it, they learn more about these people's experiences. And hopefully people do more research on their own as well. You know, this is just the first step. And I hope that everybody at JMU can realize what other minority students are going through. Because it can be isolating. Like I said, when I first got here, it was very isolating. When a bunch of people I interviewed were isolated as well. So hopefully, just people can be kind, people can be understanding, and they'll educate themselves on other people's experiences.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today. And if you want to read Kailey's supplement, you can go to breezejmu.org.